Have you ever wondered what the worst band of all time was? Something so bad that even Wikipedia calls it one of the worst of all time? Well, wonder no more, because I'm going to tell you about the Shaggs. So the Shaggs initially formed in 1965, and it was three sisters, Dot, Betty, and Helen, and then their fourth sister, Rachel, later joined the group as well. And if you're thinking, well, it can't be that bad, you're wrong, it is. And if you're thinking, well, how can it be that bad? It's not like anyone forced them to form a band and play in front of people week after week and record an album. Unfortunately, you would also be wrong on that too. This is one of those cases where the story behind the band makes the music so interesting. So the reason that this band formed was because these girls' dad pulled them out of school and forced them to start a band. Apparently, when he was a kid, his mother, who was some sort of fortune teller, predicted that he would marry a strawberry blonde woman, that he would have, I think, 2 sons and 4 daughters, that she would die shortly after having all those kids, and her final prediction is that his daughters would form a world-famous band. When the first several predictions came true, sadly, the last one resulting in his wife passing away, he became obsessed with fulfilling the last part of the prophecy. As I mentioned earlier, he pulls them out of school. He forces them to practice hours upon hours every single day, so much so that if he's ever away from home for some reason, they go outside and play, but they arrange the music room in such a way that makes it look like they've been practicing so that they don't get in trouble. In 1969, when they have enough material for a full album, they release Philosophy of the World. This is the only official album that is released while the band is together, and when later interviewed, some of the people involved in the recording at the studio, the sound engineer, had remarked that the girls just looked like they were miserable, they weren't having fun. It was clear that they didn't want to pursue any sort of music career. But the album releases, and the music is so awkward sounding. Everything is out of tune, nothing is on beat, nothing is on key, and as expected, it does very poorly. They only press 1,000 albums, and somehow 900 of those disappeared somewhere in the process. And several years later, their dad is still forcing them to perform in front of a crowd at the same place every week. This guy sounds absolutely insane. When he learns that one of his daughters, who is 28 years old now, got secretly married behind his back, he chased her new husband with a shotgun and he kicked her out of the house and the band and everything. I saw one passing comment somewhere online that said something to the effect of, oh, there were even rumors that their dad was abusing them. And my first thought was, like, what rumors? We're reading all about it here. This guy was an abusive asshole. Mercifully, he dies unexpectedly in 1975, and the Shaggs officially disband. That is not quite the end for the Shaggs, though. They develop a kind of cult following as time is going on. It seems to be gradually amping up. Frank Zappa takes notice of them, and he, probably just to cause controversy and get people to notice him, he says they're better than the Beatles. Kurt Cobain gets really into them. They become kind of a poster child for this label called outsider music. So music that is made very non-professionally, made by people who aren't experienced in making music. I think that if I had to guess, I would say that the Shaggs cult following and the interest in outsider music really took off because of gripes that people had with the professional music industry. Evidence of this, to me, is indicated by how two of the most famous and prolific artists who specifically said that they liked the Shaggs were Frank Zappa and Kurt Cobain, 2 people who famously hated the music industry and obsessed over any kind of originality. In 1982, another compilation album is released that is just comprised of recordings and studio sessions that never made it onto an official release. And when I was listening to them, it was still bad, but the first thing I had noticed is they at least have learned how to keep a beat. Well, time passes and the girls go on with their lives. Dot, who was the lead guitarist, seems to be the only one who is interested in keeping the legacy of the Shaggs alive and continuing to pursue any kind of musical career. So in 2013, she releases another album under the name the Dot Wiggin Band. She's accompanied by what sounds like somewhat experienced musicians. Her voice sounds pretty much the same, but as a result of her recording this album and all the work that she's done to keep the Shaggs in some form of public consciousness, did earn her a spot as an opening act for the band Neutral Milk Hotel when they were going on tour in the 2013 timeframe. And yes, I did listen to all three of these albums that I had listed, and it was so rough that by the end of it, I swear I was starting to get a headache. But something I find really interesting about the Shaggs is I think they're a bit of a lesson in the human side of music. The way we consume media now, we're used to it being a very professional experience. Like, someone has to be good enough to get on a record label, and then they work with a producer that makes their sound as appealing as possible, and then it's mass produced out to us where we consume it. And that's not an all bad thing. It's resulted in some amazing art being put out into the world, but this kind of reminds us that the reason we love music is because our early human ancestors played it around a fire as a bonding experience, and these were not necessarily professionals. These were human beings that were part of our tribe, and this is a part of us that I think is touched when we listen to something as small and quaint and innocent and naive as something made like this by people who didn't really know what they were doing. So the Shaggs were never going to become world famous the way that their dad had envisioned, but when they reunited for a show in the 90s, some people flew in from around the world just to see them play. So yeah, just thought I'd take a moment to share that piece of music history. I don't think there's a such thing as favorite songs with a band like this, but I will put some of their music at the end of this video so you can kind of get a taste for what it's like. And as always, thank you for watching. And the skinny people want what the fat people got, and the fat people want what the skinny people got. You can get the best in a company in this world. People come out and say, foot, don't live here no more. My elbow foot always. Sometimes I feel heavy and special to me, 2, 3, 4. When I hear your voice, I know you're the one that makes me glow. You're something flowers that you gave me. It's in the kind that you and a bike and pedals more and more. You meet up with your friends and knows. There's a destination, sometimes not the limit. You for a second, gone in a flash. Can't stay too long, I have to dash.